Pedro from ANP Reacts. I'm here with Brittany Slays from Unleash the Archers. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I really feel like we're the new Great White North. We could start our own show now.
Right, absolutely. For sure.
We
On
just
one
need
end of the
some
country and
dudes.
on the other.
Yeah, we're not in the same room. We're not in the same basement, if you will. We don't have the big map behind us. But I really feel that there's something here. The spinal cord of a new show in Canadian television is here.
I'm down with that for sure. Except I'm in the sunshiny spring and you are still stuck in winter at the actual Great White North, I think.
It's incredible. I woke up this morning, I look outside, and it looked like it was Christmas. It was covered
Yeah.
like snow everywhere. It's absolutely insane. We're in spring already. Somebody didn't get the memo.
Yeah, I don't know what he's called, Father Winter or something.
Yeah, the groundhog, or what do
Yeah.
we have in Canada? In Canada, we don't have a groundhog. We have something else, don't we? Like like a
Beaver?
muskrat or something? A beaver? Yeah, the beaver. We should, if we don't have one, we should get one. We should have
Yeah,
a beaver that tells us about the weather. I
yeah,
agree
I
with you.
agree.
The first question I want to ask you is, you guys did a very extensive tour last year, September of last year, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
that took you all across west to east coast, all over the place. How did the tour go?
It was actually it was amazing. It was so much fun. We've toured the U.S. before, but never as a headlining. Well, that's not true. We headlined the first ever tour that we did, and it was an absolute mess. But that was back in 2012 when nobody knew who the hell we were. And so this was our first time headlining in a really long time, and we were actually very hesitant about it because we were like, well, nobody knows who we are. You know, like who's going to come out to these shows? And we were really apprehensive. But then it turned out to be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the venues were great. The fans were like so awesome and so excited to be there. And we got to tour with some really good friends in Striker and Helium Prime, and they were rad. And we all got along so well on the road that it just like made it into a huge party. It was so much fun on and off stage. We just had like the raddest time ever, and we got to go to so many places. And I mean, there were a few states that we missed out on, unfortunately, but we're definitely gonna make sure that we don't miss those next time. But I mean, it was beyond anything we ever could have dreamed.
How's life on the road for you guys? Like when you get, specifically for you, you're surrounded by a bunch of dudes, smelly dudes on the road.
Hey, I get smelly too. I, I love it. I don't know. Touring isn't for everyone, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You either do it well or you don't. So I mean, I love it. I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world. Yeah.
And then from going from a tour where you're on the bus traveling from town to town to go to a place like 70,000 tons of metal, how that's a total new level of cabin fever,
Yeah.
because now you're stuck. Now you're going from being stuck on a bus with smelly dudes to being stuck on a boat with smelly dudes. So how is that experience for you? Like, do you really enjoy that experience of being on a boat?
I actually did. I mean, it was awesome. It was we were told kind of that there's no separate area where you can hang out. There's no barrier between you and the fans. And we've been told that some other bands that have been on the boat haven't really liked that. And we were kind of like, oh, like what do you mean? What's it like? What are you talking about? What's the big deal? And so we were just kind of like not really understanding. But when we got there, it was totally awesome. It was not a big deal at all. Yeah, you're like walking down the main thoroughfare and there's people that are like, what? And it's kind of like yeah, we're on the boat, you guys. Like it's but it was awesome. We had such a rad time, and so much so that we want to go. I mean, I can't this year just because of work and stuff, but we all were talking about it afterwards. Like, okay, well, we should just like go, like be 70,000 tons attendees, because it was such a good time. And I've talked to several people that have actually done the boat every year since it started, and they're kind of like, yeah, I've done Wacken, I've done Summer Breeze, I've done all the big European festivals, and nothing is like 70,000 tons. You have a nice room that you can go back to at the end of the day. You can, if you want to just chill out and listen to tunes or read or something in your room, you can do that. You're not in a gigantic campsite full of people or in a hotel that's like miles away from the venue. So, you got to worry about getting to and from or whatever. It's all right there on this little boat, and it's not cabin fevery at all. And it goes by so fast, like so fast. And you've got all these bands on your list that you want to see. And so you're constantly rushing from venue to venue. So there's like a midship venue that's one of the bigger venues. And then there's an aft venue. And then there's the pool deck venue. And you're just kind of like scrambling between them all. And yeah, I don't know. It was rad. It was so cool.
Were you as much of an artist performing there as you were of a fan checking out other bands?
Absolutely. For sure. There was one point actually where I'd had quite a bit to drink, and Necrogomicon Necrogomicon was having their meet and greet. And we are really good friends with Crimson Shadows, who toured with Necro, like, I don't know, 4 years ago or something. And they said that they had a really good time and that it was just a super rad tour and that they were all really rad dudes. So I was like, oh, I'll go introduce myself and be like, hey, I'm friends with Crimson Shadows. And they were all just like, hey, you're the chick from Unleash the Archers. And I was just like, yeah, cool picture. And then, I was on my way. But yeah, I was starstruck by people too. So we're all just human, right? It was really fun.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we all go to the toilet.
Yeah. It's true.
So on that note, you're on a boat. You already said that you were indulging in a few adult beverages. At any point in time, did you do the Titanic scene at the front of the boat?
No, definitely did not do that. You actually can't even get to like the very front of the boat, I don't think. You could be on the very back of it, but the very front is like different. So it was either we do it in it was like the pool deck venue was where there's like the closest that you could get to the front, I think. I don't know. I guess I didn't adventure around too much, but no, definitely didn't get the chance to do that. Although I'm pretty sure I saw many people just doing it wherever, so I don't think it really matters.
Because I'm thinking, if you're on a boat, there's two things you have to do. One is the Titanic scene, which I don't know if that's actually a good idea because that could bring some bad karma towards the boat.
True.
Yeah.
Well, in the Caribbean, there are no icebergs.
Yeah, there's no icebergs. That's true. That's true. The second thing I think you have to do is the Lonely Island song, I'm on a Boat.
Yeah, yes.
So I'm thinking those are the two things that it's a must do when you go to 70,000 tons.
So it was like something. I'm in my swim trunks. I got my flippy floppies. All these other people strict flipping copies or whatever. I think I did that part.
Yeah, that's a must. I mean, if you're on a boat, you kind of have to. That song somehow has to get in there somehow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to ask you about this because I think a lot of the times, of all the genres of music, metal, perhaps in Canada, is one of those that doesn't get as much exposure. And we saw it with the Junos this year. They not even broadcasted the awards when it came to the metal bands. Do you feel that it's hard being part of a metal band in Canada?
When it comes to exposure, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really funny because it took us like 7 years, 7 or so years before anybody even really knew who we were. And then, and just now we're finally getting, fans from all over the world. Whereas before we were very much a North American band, North American fan base. And, we've had a few Aussies that have known us from the beginning and, some German fans that have been supporting us since the beginning, that kind of thing. But it wasn't, like it is now, that's for sure. Whereas if you are a band in Europe, say, German or Italian or whatever, it almost feels like you're on Wacken like the day after you release your first record, It's just the opportunities over there are so much greater and you have so much more exposure to things like, the European record labels and festivals and just touring opportunities. Huge tours come through there like at all times. So yeah, I feel like it is harder to get noticed as a Canadian band for sure. And you know, people don't want to pay to fly you anywhere because you're so far away from everything. But no, it's been a hard road, but I mean, you know, we wouldn't be who we are today without it.
What do you think that it changed for you guys that took you guys from being more, like you just said, a North American fan base driven band to now have a lot more exposure to fans in Europe and Australia and like all over the world? What do you think was the turning point for the band?
I think Apex, the album, really changed a lot. I mean, it's blown up on YouTube with reaction videos and all that sort of stuff. And exactly. And yeah, I don't know, like the album itself just seems to be traveling more, if that makes any sense. It's on every platform, and so many people are finding us, no matter, you know, what they listen to with Apple Music, Google Play, whatever. So many more people are finding us, and yeah, I just feel like the record kind of has hit a note with people, whereas that our other albums didn't. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing, was that record. Yeah.
No, the album is really well structured, really well put together from the beginning to end. When you guys were recording it, did you feel at any point in time that you had something really special on your hands?
No, not really. I know that's weird. You always wonder about that. I mean, like when you hear a song that is like, oh, that was like, they had to know that they were writing a #1 hit.
Yeah.
You know, how did they not know? But I'm not saying that we wrote a #1 hit or anything. I'm just saying that, like, with how well the album has been received, like, we didn't have a clue. No, for sure. I mean, there was Apex, that actual track that we all really loved, and we were kind of like, oh yeah, this one's cool. We were really hoping that people are going to like this one, but in no way did we think that we had an album that was going to, you know, change things or broaden our fan base at all. And you know, when we put it out on release or whatever, every time we release a single, we're just kind of like, you know, watching, waiting, and wondering. So no, we didn't have a clue. But I always wonder if some musicians do and have, you know exactly what they're doing, but we definitely do not.
Because as a fan listening to it, when I'm listening to some of the tracks on that record, I'm like, there's no way that after you record this, there's not a mic drop and you just leave the room, because the song is that good. It's just like, you know what, like, mic drop, leave the room, we'll start again tomorrow.
Yeah. No, never, no mic drops. Maybe in frustration kind of thing, but no, never.
So Apex came out in 2017. It's been a while. When can fans expect the new Unleash the Archers record?
We are just taking a bit of a breather this year, but we will be writing and recording probably starting in a couple months. We've already got some ideas flying around, and the story behind the album is written already, and we know exactly what it's going to be about, and it's going to be a sequel to Apex. So, I mean, a lot of the structure is already done, and some songs are starting to come together, but we haven't like been sitting down and jamming it out or anything yet. But if all goes as planned, hopefully an early 2020 release.
Wow.
For a full length.
That's good news.
Mm-hmm. But we do have an EP in the works. That's we just kind of have to do the, you know, all the background stuff. The songs are recorded and everything, and it's just going to be a little 2-song EP that we release probably this summer or maybe early fall. We originally wanted it to be spring, but of course, you know, things get in the way and things get pushed back. So hopefully soon on the EP.
So let me recap this. So there's going to be an EP this summer, and then a new album at the beginning, early 2020. Will you guys be releasing any music videos for that upcoming album leading up to that date, or even anything for the EP, or it's just going to be the releases when the releases are ready to come out?
No, we're going to do a video for the EP. We're going to do, I think, definitely one music video for the single. And then for the full length, I'm thinking what it'll probably be is like the first single will come out in spring of 2020. And then, so we'll definitely do the same thing as last time. We'll drop like 2 tracks and then like
to get everybody hyped up for the album.
Yeah, exactly. Like 6 to 8 weeks after that, we'll release the album.
Sounds good. Sounds like you have a plan. Now,
yeah.
When you guys are putting the ideas for the album together, you said it's going to be a continuation from Apex as far as the story is concerned. Does that add extra pressure for you guys in terms of the creative process behind the album? Or you feel like there's so much there to still, so much of the story that needs to be told that there's enough material there for you to pull from and create a full-length record?
Well, the only real obstacle that it creates is that it's got to sound right. It's got to be the right sound for, the emotion of the record and what the story that we want to tell. So whereas before we would kind of just try and make everything work. So if someone came with a riff and was like, we were all like, yeah, that's a cool riff. Like we'd go with it. We'd throw it in there. But with the way that we did Apex and the way that we're going to do the next one, it's very important that it fits. So we've already tossed a couple ideas out the window because it's just not right for the direction of the record. So there's that. But honestly, I find it's more fun to write with a guide like that, with a bit of structure behind it, because we know exactly where we're going and we're all writing in the same direction. And it's just a little bit more of a kind of puts us all on the same page, as opposed to, we're all just writing and in our own little worlds and bringing it to the jam spot and saying like, let's do something around this, which is a little bit more
chaotic.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said about the 70,000 tons. I want to change gears a little bit in terms of you meeting the guys from Necrogoblikon. Is there anybody out there that you would love to work on a collaboration with, either on your own record or on their record?
Yeah, probably. I think there's tons. I'd love to do a song with Stu from Iced Earth. That'd be a lot of fun, I think. And then like Elisa from Arch Enemy would be fun, fellow Canadian. Who else? There's a ton, like Bjorn from Speed from Soilwork would be a lot of fun to work with. It's mostly vocalists that I find I'm kind of like
you're drawn to.
Yeah, it'd be fun to like just play off of their vocal style with mine and see what we can do. If I really like to use an opposite vocal to mine, like the harsh vocals in UTA and that kind of thing, as other voices in the songs. So I always consider what it'd be like to write around someone like Stu, something like. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's tons. I don't know if there's anyone who I'd be like, ooh, I'd love to be on your record. I just feel like that might be a little weird. you should totally, I should be on your record, like.
I think that's what you're missing in order for you to go to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. No, so, but no, I mean, there's tons that I would love to. There's actually a screamer here in Vancouver. His name is Kyle Scott. He is the screamer for a band called Pyramidion, and he was also in a band that I love a lot called Nihilithia. They do like what they call hyper thrash, which is super rad, and I would love to have him on this next record, actually. So might
hey,
so right around him a little. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
You mentioned you mentioned that they have that different styles and vocals with something that will be different from yours in order to really have a more dynamic vibe between the two. And you mentioned Alyssa White Gloves there. Do you have an issue with people referring to bands that are fronted by a female as a female fronted band? I really want to take your take on that.
Yes.
What's let's not hold back. How do you feel about people that rated bands like Unleash the Archers, for example, as a female fronted band? Do you take offense to that?
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with saying they're female fronted, because you're just describing the sound. You're saying like, okay, what you're going to be hearing is a female voice. That's fine. But don't say that they play female fronted metal, because that's not a thing. It's not a genre. You can't say to someone, oh, they play female fronted metal, and have that person know exactly what that sound is, because it doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So if you say, oh, this, I just heard this new band, they're really rad, it's female fronted black metal, then I'll know like that it's going to be a chick. And a lot of times, even with screams, you can't even tell. So it doesn't really matter in that case. But like with something like power metal, yeah, I want to know it's going to be a girl. I want to, it'll help me kind of figure out the sound, I guess, or be like, yeah, ooh, female fronted power metal. That sounds, like something I'd be into, or whatever. It doesn't, I mean, it's not essential to it. Like, as much as I would want someone to say, oh, you should check out this new band, they play black metal, I'd want to know, if I feel like listening to a black metal band at that second. So it's not as important, but I don't care if someone says, it's female fronted. It's just another descriptor, but female fronted metal is not a genre. So.
Yeah. So your issue is not using it as a description, but more as a category.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I feel the same thing, because it's not like if you tell me it's female front, it doesn't really tell me much about the band at all. I mean, besides the fact that there's a female singer.
Yeah. There was a long time ago, when people thought that symphonic metal was female fronted metal. Like, there was no way that you could have a symphonic metal band without a female opera singer, and that's just kind of, I think, where that stupidity started, was that when you think of female fronted metal, you'd think of Nightwish or Within Temptation, or that kind of thing. But then you got bands like In This Moment and Butcher Babies, and sorry, but they are not symphonic metal, so they're not one and the same kind of a thing. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, even Warlock, they don't fit into female fronted metal, right? So I don't know. It's just it kind of just started with this, not like discrimination, but like painting everyone with the same brush. You know what I mean? I can't really remember the word right now, but I'm trying to think of.
It's like a little bit out of laziness.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel that way. So I'm going to say something, and this something is to lead up to a question. I think you have one of the greatest voices in Canadian metal, perhaps the greatest female voice in Canadian metal. Has that ever brought any unwanted attention, for example, from Chad Kroeger from Nickelback?
No. No. No,
I mean, that guy to me is a little bit on the creepy side. So I just figured,
a little.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice, right? The guy is they're ruining music one album at a time. But I just figure, you being one of the greatest female voices at this moment in Canada, that somehow you guys have crossed paths at a festival or at an award show. And because he thinks of himself as the Elvis of Canada. So I figured that I was going to go with something else, but then probably this would have been removed from the internet immediately. So I figured that perhaps he tried to throw a pickup line here and there towards you. Never happened.
No, he does live in Vancouver. Or actually, I think he's like in some mansion out in Surrey, actually. But his studio is here and all that sort of stuff, and his label is here. So. But no, I've never come across him, and I've never had issues really like that at all, ever. So, I mean, there's been a few fans that have messaged and been like, maybe a little inappropriate, but for the most part, everyone's been really nice about it, and they just say things like, oh my God, your voice is amazing, and you've helped me through so many dark times, or that kind of thing. So. No, nothing. I do have a story about him, though.
Oh, do tell.
Not from me, but he was at a party that actually my mom was at. And my mom was talking to someone that she works with who's younger and beautiful. And Chad just walked right up, stood in front of my mom, and started talking to her. And completely just like interrupted their conversation. And my mom was just like, oh, God. And the girl didn't know who he was. Didn't know. And so he was like, I know you. And she was like, no, I don't know you. And he's like, no, I do. I know you. And she was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, and we've never met before. And he was like, no, 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 I've seen you somewhere. And so my mom was just like, oh God. She's like, yeah, I know who you are. And
Oh,
you live in a, she's, I can't even remember. She's just like, she said some horrible thing that was like a sneaky kind of passive aggressive, rude comment. And he just looked at her and was like, whatever. And then like walked away. And I was like, that totally sounds like what he would do. I don't know. What a
I, I,
butthole.
I never met your mother, but I'm in love with your mother right
Yeah, I
now
know.
because that to me is absolutely amazing. Absolutely
I
amazing.
I just wish that I could have been there because I don't think I would have known what to have said, but she definitely did. So that was awesome.
Yeah, this story, I never in a million years I thought I was going to sit down here with you today. I was even contemplating should I ask her that question or not, and now I'm glad that I did because I got a further story out of this whole thing.
Nice, nice.
All right,
Oh.
this is nice. This made me.
Oh, I'm glad. Yay.
I got 3 questions to ask you from our fans on our channel. We posted that we were going to be sitting down and talking to you. By the way, the response from the videos that we've done from Unleash the Archer has been absolutely amazing.
Wow.
We have our viewers to thank for the fact that we discover your band because it's the response has been absolutely phenomenal. You guys really struck a chord with a lot of people with Apex. And so when we decided that we were gonna sit down and talk, I posted that to our viewers and asked them if they had questions. So I picked 3 questions that they had for you, and I'm gonna ask them right now if that's okay with you.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So the first one is, who's your favorite band?
Oh, that's a really hard one because there's so many that I love. And they change, you know. There's times when I listen to a band nonstop for months, and then, you know, I don't listen to them again for years. So it's constantly changing. There are, I guess, a few that I would probably like always return to, but I can't say really that I have one favorite. Um, I mean, sometimes I guess you know when you're just kind of like having a crappy day and you want that band that lifts you up. I suppose that would probably be like Edguy or Lost Horizon or Iron Maiden.
Wow, Lost
Or
Horizon. That's interesting.
yeah, I love that. I love those guys. Only put out 2 albums, but they were 2 albums of pure greatness. And Iced Earth.
I think you guys just picked up another 100,000 fans by that comment.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I mean, Daniel Heyman is like one of my biggest vocal influences of all time. When we first started Unleash the Archers, I was very much still a classical singer. You know, I had choir in my blood, in my bones, and I was constantly sitting there trying to find a sound that I felt like I could kind of do in my own way. And Queensryche actually is another one that I return to a lot. Their new album is fantastic, by the way. It's so good. I've been listening to it a ton. So Jeff Tate was one that I was listening to a lot, and I was kind of like just listening to him and singing along with him and figuring out, because he does that really awesome mid-range falsetto that's like so powerful and like just like bell pure. And Daniel Heyman was another one that I listened to, and for the first time I heard him, I was just like, oh, this is it right here. This is what I need to do. And not so much that I felt like I could do what he does, but because I just was so inspired by him and by how he uses his range. I mean, like from, you know, very bottom to the very top, every note that he can sing, he sings on his records. And the way that he can play around the guitars, because the guitars are absolutely flying most of the time. They're just like, and there's no room for vocals in there a lot of the time in their music. They're just kind of like, I'm going to be over here doing my own thing. But Daniel like stands up to them with no problem. So I really admired that as well. But yeah, it's probably, I don't think I could pick one favorite though, unfortunately. Sorry.
Now this leads me to another thing, because correct me if I'm wrong, and I've been known to be wrong a lot of times. You guys did a Queensryche cover, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, we did Queen of the Reich. Yeah,
Queen of the Reich.
The Japanese edition of Apex.
By the
Just
way,
because
one
I
of my
felt
favorite.
I felt it fit.
Yeah, it's not an easy song to do, by the way.
Yeah, no, I learned
Well,
that in the studio.
yeah.
Like, Dad, it's much easier to sing along in the car when you don't care what you sound like. But no,
Yeah, you were not in the shower when you were recording that. That's for sure.
no.
The other question that I have from the fans is what's your favorite movie or book?
Well, movie Willow for sure, for always, and till the end of time. That movie was one of the first movies that we went to in the theater as a family. I was like, I don't know what, when did it come out? 86 or 88. So I was like
Wow, I feel old.
too little to really understand what was going on, but that was that was the first film that we went to, and then I think my dad like bought the VHS of it, or either he did that or he recorded it like when it came on TV one night, because then I lived on that movie, and it was like I'd get home from school and I'd put in Willow and I'd watch it until my parents got home from work. It was like my babysitter for years, and I know every word, and I love that. Yeah, it's like, and it stands the test of time. You watch it right now, it's still rad. It's still so good, and good effects and everything. Well, because there really were no effects. Well, there's a few, but I mean, yeah, it's just definitely Willow. And for books, I really enjoyed The Black Company, the whole series by Glenn Cook. That was kind of like the first time I ever really read a fantasy novel or series that was outside of the box of traditional high fantasy. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then it just kind of, I mean, opened up a whole doorway of amazing um, authors for me. So, but I also really like The Passage by Justin Cronin, which is a super cool twist on like a post-apocalyptic world that was taken over by vampires. So definitely check that one out. I like read that, like the first two chapters just still standing in the bookstore before I even realized it. I was just like, holy crap, okay, I gotta buy this book. So no, it was really good.
Yeah, I think this question came from the fact that a lot of your music and even the way you guys put some of the videos together seems to have a little bit of a cinematic background to it, post-apocalyptic cinematic background to it. So I think that's where that question came from. They wanted to know a little bit what were your favorites, because they wanted to see if that somehow influences your music.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely it does. And we work really hard on our music videos. It's never just like throw a concept out there and do it. It's like this is one of the reasons why the EP is taking so long. It's because we want the video for it to be perfect, like just right for the song and the vibe and all that kind of thing. So, and then of course you have to do that under a very constricted budget. So it takes a lot of work. But we put a lot of time and effort into every aspect of what the image that we put out there for you guys to see. So it's definitely influenced. We love movies. Like Scott and I watch movies together all the time. We're huge cinephiles. So yeah, definitely comes across, I guess.
The last question from the fans is, how do you balance your private life with your life on the road?
Poorly. Yeah, for a while there, like before I kind of was like, oh, okay, I need to take a step back. I was basically working two 40-hour-a-week jobs, and all day long was at the day job, and all night was with the band. And then on the road was really the only place where I would get any kind of respite from it, because I was all in the band instead of doing both. Well, a little bit of both sometimes, but no, it's not easy, and it's very tiring and kind of really burned me out there. And but that's why we've taken this first half of 2019 off from doing anything, because really we all just kind of needed to not have to go to the jam spot every night for just a few weeks, just please. So yeah, but I think I'm getting better at it. It's still a lot of hard work, but I mean, this is what it's all about. If you want to be successful, you got to work your butt off. Yeah, it's not just about, jamming on Saturday nights in the jam spot. You got to do all the other stuff that comes with it, including paying attention, to your fans and to your brand, and working constantly to get your name out there, and doing interviews with wonderful people like you on,
Yeah, I
like,
mean, this is the downside of everything. Yes, it's on a Sunday afternoon having to sit down here with this douche.
but it's so worth it. It's totally, this is why I do this. So I'm, yeah.
But perhaps you need to hang out with your mom more. Go to parties with her.
Yeah, I probably should do that.
I think that could be an easy way to get rid of some stress.
Well, we did just recently move into a new apartment that has a hot tub, so I'm in there like every night. I'm in there at like midnight, mind you, because that's finally the moment when I get some free time. But I am in there, so that's really nice.
Yeah. See, there you go. Like you have something to look forward to unwind at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's so awesome. I don't know what I'm gonna do without it if I ever move somewhere without one.
You guys have to take one on the road as on the trailer behind the bus.
Oh my God. Get one with like some crazy rooftop one that has like a pano above it or something. I don't know. Some Motley Crue type tour bus.
I was going to say about what you're saying in terms of keeping your image and the band and all of that. And that reminded me of the era that we live in with social media and stuff like that. Does that add extra pressure for you guys in order to stay relevant, to be there and be there for your fans and use social media platforms in order to be able to connect to them?
Yeah, absolutely. When someone can get a hold of you 24/7, it's really hard to know when to shut it off, really is what it is. So, I mean, I used to check the Facebook messages every night and answer every night, and it just got to the point where I couldn't do that. I needed me time. So now it's like every 2 weeks I'll sit down and I'll answer all the messages, and it's hard because I got to say to myself, okay, get ready for 3 hours of sitting here replying to messages, because they do build up. But it's not, yeah, it's a part of being in a band in this era where the best way to connect with your fans is through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and I feel it's really important to keep that connection and that communication open. I don't know why. I just guess you guys are really important to us, and without our fans, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be where we are. So I want to make sure that that everybody knows that we care about you guys. So heck yeah, I'm going to answer your damn messages. Just might take me a little while. But and things like Twitter and all that kind of stuff is, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but it's the way the world is. So kind of suck it up, Buttercup.
I have one last question to ask you, because before we go, I want to thank you once again for taking your time, sitting down with me on a Sunday, answering my silly questions. I really want to thank you for taking the time to do so. And I have one last question to ask you. I think that this is the most important question that I asked you all day long, and I think this is the question that everybody's been waiting for. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Which is the greatest city on earth, Vancouver or Toronto?
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to go with Vancouver.
Wrong answer. Fake news. This is fake news. Vancouver is not the greatest city on earth.
But we have sunshine and blue skies right now. So
well,
what do you got? Snow?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but most of the time
you guys power outage and storms.
Yeah, and power outage. And 90% of the time you guys have rain.
No, that is not true.
That's not true?
No, that's one of the biggest myths about Vancouver that I'm constantly trying to put right with the world, is because what it is actually is that it's our winter time is like 90% rain. So if you are here for 3 months, from like December, January, February, sometimes a little bit of November, sometimes it changes, and especially with global warming and all that stuff, it's really starting to change. But it's basically raining all the time. So if you are in Vancouver during that time, yeah, you think to yourself, Jesus, it's always raining here. But really what it is that our winter time is just, yeah, it's going to rain all winter long, basically. Whereas other places get snow all the time. So, I mean, but then in spring and summer and fall, I mean, oh my God, it's amazing. We've had stretches of 60, 2 months without a single drop of rain in the summertime before. And it's just kind of, it's different from snow because it's really hard to be in that cloudy, wet, rainy kind of, I don't know, it's like, it's a bit
Drury.
depressing. Yeah. So it just gives you that feeling of, oh my God, it rains all the time here. But really it's just those 3 months of the year. And actually, funny stat, Toronto gets more rain than does because you guys get an even amount of rain throughout the year. Whereas we get kind of all of it in one big pour.
Sure.
So yeah, it's really weird. But I do love Toronto. It's just not as great as Vancouver. But I'm biased. I am born and raised Vancouver, so I'm so biased. It's not even funny.
Yeah, so there's no way I could ever bribe you or pay you under the table for you to say anything else but Vancouver. It's just not happening.
Sorry.
Not even a David Chet Holder would change your mind.
Oh God. I'm sorry, Chad. I don't mean to be such a horrible person, but no, definitely. Yeah. I don't know. There's no other place like it.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. This was an absolute blast. I had a great time talking to you.
Thank you. I did too.
All the best with the EP that's coming out this summer. I'm looking forward to those 2 tracks and the video. And best of luck with the upcoming album for next year. I'm really excited about that because Apex was an absolute delight. So it's like the anticipation is brewing now for a new record.
Big shoes to fill.
I'm sure you guys will do fine. I think you guys are hitting your stride, and if there's a band that's going places and taking the name of Canada with them, it's definitely Unleash the Archers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.